Ladies and gentlemen, we request everyone to please come inside the hall and take your seats. And just a quick request to keep those mobile phones on the silent mode. But we're about to get started with our next session, so I request every one of you, everyone in the pre-function area as well, to please come back inside the hall and take your seats. Thank you. All right, so once again, I request everyone, we look forward to that swift movement. I'm going to request all of you to very quickly grab your seats, all those entering inside the hall. Let's have you all very quickly take your seats. We're about to get started with our next session right away. And we have very aptly called this the Fireside Chat because it's on a very feisty topic when we look at it, when we talk about social cohesion and inclusive growth as we focus on the pillars of a secure nation. That will be the theme for our next session. So I'm going to request every one of you, everyone just outside in the pre-function area as well, I'm going to request you all to very quickly march ahead inside the hall and take your seats. Well, it's good to see so many of you back again after that refreshing cup of tea and coffee, which means we're already energized enough to get up for our next session, because our next session, as I had mentioned earlier, is again a very, very interesting theme coming your way. And this is important because as we confront the challenges of a rapidly evolving society, social cohesion actually stands out as a fundamental pillar for national security. So with rising challenges for socioeconomic disparities and the growing need for robust law enforcement, this session will in fact address comprehensive approaches to deepen social cohesion while maintaining adequate internal security. We're about to get the session started, which is why I'm going to request everyone to very quickly, very smoothly grab your seats. Well, that's right. We've got our esteemed speakers already here inside the hall. And with that, we're about to begin the session. So everyone who's still entering inside the hall, I'm going to request you to please grab your seats at the earliest. So with that, let's commence the session. Let's begin the session as well. And while we do so, ladies and gentlemen, it's only befitting that I firstly introduce our session chair and moderator. We have with us Shri R.R. Swain, former DGP JNK. In fact, he's a 1991 batch IPS officer of the JNK cadre, having served as DGP of Jammu and Kashmir until retirement in September 2024. And he's also held key leadership roles in Jammu and Kashmir during the 1990s, contributing to initiatives like village defense committees and special operation groups to combat terrorism. In fact, post-Article 370 abrogation, he's also led the CID of JNK as Special DG, founding the State Investigation Agency and also chairing the Terror Monitoring Group. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together. Please help me welcome Shri R.R. Swain. I'd like to please request you, sir, to please come on the stage. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. And with that, let me march ahead and also invite our esteemed speakers for this session. Well, our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, an engineer and a politician who currently serves as a Member of Parliament, Rajya Sabha, and as a national spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party. In fact, after his PhD in mechanical engineering, he's also worked as a faculty member in the same department at various Indian universities. He's also worked as an information advisor to the former Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh and a political advisor to the former BJP National President Rajnath Singh. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi. So if I may please invite you on stage and let's welcome him with a huge round of applause. On that note, I also have the absolute delight of introducing our next speaker, an Indian politician who served as the Minister of State for External Affairs and Culture of India from July 2021 to June 2024. She was also the Member of Parliament from the New Delhi Parliamentary Constituency in the 16th and 17th Lok Sabha from the Bharatiya Janata Party. She's also a very renowned and an eminent lawyer in the Supreme Court of India. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us Ms. Meenakshi Lekhi. Thank you very much, ma'am, for joining us. And on that note, it's my absolute honor to introduce our final speaker for the session, a highly decorated retired Indian Army General. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us none other than General Vijay Kumar Singh, PVSM, AVSM, YSM. In fact, he's also entered politics and joined the Bharatiya Janata Party in 2014 and also represented India at various international events and has also been honored for his exceptional and distinguished services. Please put your hands together once again. Please help me welcome on stage General V.K. Singh. We're all geared up to deep dive into this discussion as we unravel the pillars of a secure nation. With that, let me quickly hand over the proceedings to Shri R.R. Swain. Over to you, sir.
Dear delegates, participants, and distinguished guests, good morning and welcome to the fourth session on the second and last day of Chanakya Dialogues 2024. I also warmly welcome our very esteemed panelists who need no introduction now. To straight go to the business of introducing a subject and to explore the connections between social cohesion, inclusive growth and national security and more importantly, framing and implementing policies on this is truly fraught. Inquiring into the connections between them may appear on the surface of it to be a no-brainer, in the sense that it is an obvious truism or a set of platitudes, suggesting therefore that the real challenge mostly lies in forceful implementation of measures to achieve it. It is like explaining that there are 5 brothers living in a joint family, and if there is good relationship between all of them and their families are living in harmony with each other, all of them are more or less equally well off, it is obvious that there would be little reason for discord and less occasions for internal fights and quarrels, and equally less occasions for persons outside the family, like a competing neighbor, to exploit the family differences. However, in lives of large societies and nations, the complexities are far more enormous. I cannot claim scholarship on the subject, but on the basis of first-hand experience of a practitioner of enforcement of law, to maintain peace and order and execute anti-terrorist operations, the dynamics of the factors at play, many times below the surface, that influences and circumstances that result in a lack of social cohesion or inclusive growth and economic disparities are pretty complicated. I think I should be able to raise a few questions which should and perhaps would be agitating most of our minds present in this audience. For example, can all internal conflicts or discords be easily and straightforwardly attributed to economic disparity, inequitable resource distribution, or differential treatment? Take the case of Jammu and Kashmir. To what extent can we say that the problem or disaffection in the society is because of lack of economic or employment opportunities, or even regional deprivation? We all know that a very large number of laborers actually moved to Jammu and Kashmir from poorer regions of our country for earning their livelihood because of higher wages there. This is despite the risks involved that are real. In other words, the economic surplus that we have in Jammu and Kashmir, especially in the valley, appears to be strong enough, resulting in the economic osmosis of a large number of unskilled and semi-skilled laborers moving to Jammu and Kashmir. This does not mean that all youngsters of Jammu and Kashmir or in the valley have access to employment, especially of the type they are looking for. Most in Jammu and Kashmir, including in the valley, may I use the word desperately aspire for government employment, even if it is contractual or temporary. Government has been giving employment under different names like daily wagers, need-based employees, casual labor, etc., which is practically speaking many times less than the wage earned by the unskilled laborers coming from other states. I know for sure there are tens of thousands of young persons who would queue up for a 6,000 rupees monthly job as a SPO in the police. Arguments that the possibility of becoming permanent, etc., just cannot explain the seeming absurdity. Now, this may sound paradoxical for one more reason. The national security adversary in Jammu and Kashmir peddles a narrative that the disaffection is against the government. It may please be noted that the narrative propagated by the terrorist networks is that the local government is a puppet of the Indian state and those who work for it are stooges and collaborators. There are enough anecdotal evidence available, which I am sure is likely to be corroborated through a proper research, to underline that a bloated government sector in Jammu and Kashmir could be the cause of the problem. Are we then looking at a situation where inclusive growth, especially that is sustainable, and the policies to enforce it may lie in the domain of examination of vested interests preventing growth of a vibrant private sector in Jammu and Kashmir? Some preliminary data show that the government sector contribution to state GDP in Jammu and Kashmir in comparison to the private sector is 4 times more than what is the national average. In normal states, thriving private sectors create wealth and pay taxes to sustain the government sector. How does it work out in a place like Jammu and Kashmir? What is impeding investment into private sector in a place like Jammu and Kashmir? Is it that some business houses have cartelized and are into monopolistic practices? To what extent this has got intertwined with the agenda of separatist politics and extendedly terrorism? To what extent the adversary has successfully concealed it in a false narrative? A concept note that I was given by the research associates of the think tank supporting this dialogue at several places said that transparency and increased accountability in governance, including law enforcement, robust anti-corruption measures, judicial reforms, community-oriented policing, strengthening rule of law are perhaps key concepts and action areas to build trust in public institutions and in turn improve social cohesion that would eventually reduce our vulnerabilities to terrorism and other internal security challenges. Personally, I am pretty inclined to agree on this. Many security experts and practitioners tend to argue that corrupt practices, especially in law enforcement and terrorist operations, but not limited to it, are not as crucial as they are made out to be. This is on the basis of the premise that deficiencies in this array of interrelated subjects exists in other states and other regions of the country, and maybe with a higher degree and at a broader or deeper level enveloping both day-to-day life and systemic governance. This could be an incorrect understanding of the ground situation. Allow me to go back to Jammu and Kashmir, where I have spent a sizable part of my work life. In J&K, we are up against a highly developed, well-oiled narrative machine of the adversary, which works 24/7 and bombards its target population, saying that breaking from the Indian Union will lead to Nizam-e-Mustafa, the Ramraj, where there would be fairness, freedom from corruption, and efficiency of governance. It must be understood and considered that in many cases, be it left-wing extremism in the Red Corridor or terrorism and separatism backed by radical Islamists in J&K, one of the crucial battles is the battle of narratives. And this is where the Indian state and its instruments are perhaps losing out to the enemy. True, the Indian state may continue to have some governance deficits here and there. While we should not shy away from it and continuously strive to improve matters, as we evolve to a socially cohesive and wealth and opportunity-wise inclusive society, there is a dire need to call the bluff of the adversary within the country and outside its borders. It is eminently mentionable here that according to an analysis, India has registered a decline of 17.89 percentage points in terms of multidimensional poverty from 29.17% to 11.28% during the last 10 years. The utterly false narrative, for example, that no good can happen as long as J&K is a part of the Indian Union, and extendedly nothing good has been done by the instruments of the Indian state for the people of J&K, and its corollary that nothing bad can happen at the hands of the soldiers of the Tehreek and Jihad, has not been countered effectively. The fact that the Republic of India and its mechanisms spend about 1 lakh crore rupees as government budget alone at the local level, not to include the central government expenditure. do not only sustain the livelihood of about 4 lakh employees and build and maintain and run hospitals, schools, colleges, universities, roads, bridges, electricity and water supply, and a whole range of civic services. The fact that more than 75 government welfare schemes supported at times jointly by the local government and the central government, and many times exclusively by the central government, are completely free from any kind of bias on the basis of caste, community or religion. And the benefits of the Ayush card does not distinguish a Hindu from a Muslim, a Gujar from a Pahadi, a Jammuite from a Kashmir. And the Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao scheme ensures that all benefit across the spectrum on the basis of a community-neutral criteria are astoundingly glossed over to the detriment of our efforts to ensure internal and national security requirements. The point that I'm trying to underline is the challenges of bringing about social cohesion and inclusive growth in furtherance of internal security perhaps is as much a matter of substance as of appearance. It is as much a matter of scrutinizing powerful vested interests, wittingly or otherwise, helping the adversary in preventing structural changes in the economy of a state or a region from getting integrated with the national economy and reaping the benefits thereof for its ordinary people. It is also perhaps a matter of auditing who is preventing an organic and symbiotic growth of the private sector in these areas, preventing opening up of and democratizing economic opportunities to ordinary entrepreneurs, especially at the local level, for its own local citizens, and sadly under the false and fallacious pretext of protecting the local interests. With this, it's time now to listen to our panel experts who have vast experience and knowledge, both as practitioners in their own fields of politics, law, public service, and management of security at the highest level, and also as astute analysts and observers of the nuanced realities on the ground. Jai Hind. With this opening remarks, I think I will request Dr. Trivedi to take over and throw light on a subject which is, to exactly quote it, as deepening social cohesion for national growth. Over to you, sir.
Respected General V.K. Singh ji, Meenakshi Lekhi ji, and Mr. R.R. Swine. Today is the topic that how social cohesion works for national security or for national growth. I would just like to say that if a country wants to become strong, what are the parameters required? It should have a robust economy. Then you can say it should have a robust defense. Then comes the third aspect. Okay, but we will be dependent upon various technologies to the other countries. So if it is good in technology, means three things: economy, defense, and technology. Then you can say it's a complete, comprehensive package to make a country strong, prosperous, and prominent. But does these things happen actually? If you look from history to the present world, by this parameter, if you look, there are certain countries which were having very strong economy, very strong defense forces, very strong in technology, but they couldn't survive. The reason has to be something else. Example is USSR, the Soviet Union. It was having all the things, and it was considered one of the topmost countries of the world at the time, but it is splintered into 15 pieces. How come? Then look a little bit in the history. The entire Europe today is having 15, 16 countries, but it was one nation under the Roman Empire. And they were very powerful, technologically very advanced, everything was there, but they couldn't survive as a single country. Entire Middle East was one country under the Arabic Empire, but they couldn't survive. How come the India, even after the 2000 years of subjugation, survived as a one country? The reason lies beyond these three dimensions, which I think the fourth dimension is a socio-cultural dimension. That how your country and your society looks towards your establishment and how it works for the strengthening of the society and the strengthening of the country. I can give you one more example in the present world, that if the society is not conducive to accept the dominance of the country. One example is Vietnam War. When the coffins of soldiers started coming to US, there was a huge upsurge of public sentiment against Nixon. Because the society was having a mindset that they do not want to die. Because they are governed by a socio-cultural concept that the life ends here. And the life is only for enjoyment. So the moment you see the end of the life, your frustration begins or depression begins. On the contrary, in 1999 during the Kargil war, when Vajpayee government decided that the dead bodies of the soldiers will be sent to their respective villages and they will be provided a full military honor, most of the people said that they are committing the same mistake which the Nixon government has done. But here the situation was totally adverse. Here there was an upsurge of the nationalistic sentiment in those villages because the concept of society is totally different. They do not fear of dying. They feel pride in sacrifice. So there is a total difference in the society which has created two divergent reactions. One more example I would like to give. I am not going into what is right, what is wrong. It is having a wrong aspect also, but one thing. You know that America is having the most sophisticated, powerful, technologically advanced army. And it remained for 14 years in Afghanistan and came out without anything. Prior to that, 11 years, Russia, with the most sophisticated, technologically advanced and powerful army, remained there in a country which was not having even an air force, which was not having even a structured army. How come? Because the socio-culture concept was so rigid and so difficult that they are ready to die rather than to surrender. So America and Russia was having a very advanced engineering of the material and machine. But they were having the engineering of minds. So they were having the fedayins. I'm saying that right or wrong is a different thing. But just I'm giving an example that how come the success and failure of the country and the success and failure of the army operation is affected by the society. And one more thing I would like to say, though some people think this is a theoretical or conceptual, but I think whatever happens in the world, whether it is at the finer level or the larger level, there is having some connection. Prior to advent of democracy, 1 century back, how the power uses to change? It was a fight between the armies and then the power uses to change. Now we said that the power has come to the common man and it is by the democratic power the power changes. But so the concept doesn't change even in 1,000 years like the nature. If it is said the power comes from the barrel of gun, that the power can only be achieved after war, so the war has to be fought between the people. So if you look, that terrorism started in the last 50, 60 years. Now the next stage of war, we all have heard about the hybrid wars. Hybrid war is just one more dimension to the existing pattern of war. But one more aspect of war is that to create a conflict in the society, and by using that conflict, you can easily do away with the other country. And you all are well aware about that book, The War Unrestricted, which was written by a Chinese general, that how come the society and other related aspect can be used. And in this context, in 2004 or 5, in the Virginia University of this Corps University in Virginia, they have written a paper on future of war and how it is fought. I just want to give one example. In recent times, there was so much of hue and cry about the Agniveer. I am not going into the detail that what was right, what was wrong, and what were the qualities, which are the positive thing. Just look at one thing. India is a country which is having 140 crore population. And the defense forces, military is, armed forces are around 14 lakhs to 15 lakhs. That is 0.1%. Then what is the recruitment every year? Can be 40, 50,000, not even 1,40,000. So it has to be 0.005% is the opportunity available. But the entire country of 140 crore has been embedded an idea in the mind that your entire opportunity of life is ended with that possibility, which is 0.005%. On the other hand, if you go for business and others, the chances of success is 25%. 75% are chances of failure, but 25% chances of success. But that 0.005 has been put in the mind. And as Mr. Swine was telling that the equitable distribution of wealth and growth that creates, definitely that paves a way for better cohesion in society. But if it was true, then what is happening in Lebanon? Just 50, 60 years back, Lebanon was having all these things. A very good society, good economy, good intellectual aspect, and everything vanished after 1970s. So we have to be very clear about it. What are the reasons? The reason is social, less economical, more social. If the economic reason would have been, then why the Middle East countries, which are by and large, most of the Middle East countries are flooded with petrodollars in the last 70, 80 years. But still there are the hubs of terrorism. Then how come Osama bin Laden became the terrorist? He is one of the billionaires. Then if the good education is provided, then the Khalid Sheikh and Muhammad Atta, who has done 9/11, they were aeronautical engineers, well trained, and having a very good opportunity to settle in a country like America, rather than they were settled there. So we have to be very clear that how the socio-cultural concept plays the role and how it puts a role here. One more example I would like to give. That I have given about how in our country there are villages, there are areas, there are communities who feel pride in sacrifice. They do not fear of death. The reason is, our concept says that the life is not an end. Our concept is motivated by Gita's thought, Vasansi jirnani yatha vihai, navani grahnati naroparani, tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani, anyati sanyati navani dehi. It means, like when we have this clothes, wear and tear, old, then we shed the old cloth and pick up the new one. My identity is not the cloth, my identity is my body. In the same manner, my identity is consciousness, and this body is like a cloth. We leave about the old body and a new body has been picked up. So it is just an station in the ongoing journey. It's not the end of the journey. So that concept leads to a different thought process. Another example is how it connects to the country. For example, the war cry of Gorkha regiment is Jai Mahakali, Ayori Gorkhali. So when you say about Mahakali, you get connected with same sense of devotion to Vaishno Devi in Jammu Kashmir, to Kanyakumari in Tamil Nadu, to Kamakhya in Assam, and to Mumba Devi in Mumbai, and Vindhyachal here. So that becomes an emotional connect. So even if the part is in anybody else's control, it hardly matters. Because finally I would like to say, there is a fundamental difference in our thought process about power, nation and state. Today's prevailing concept is politico-territorial nation. What is the definition of a nation or country? It is a one part of land controlled by one political power is nation. That is politico-territorial nation. But the Indian concept is geo-cultural nation. It is a certain set of cultural and social values which inspires you, and that makes a nation. And how it affects, I would like to give one example. of my personal experience. On 15th of August 2016, when Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi from Red Fort has raised the issue of Baluchistan. So on that day, I was on a TV debate on a prominent English channel. And one Mr. Ahmad Musti Khan, who was a Baluch activist, he was sitting from there, from Washington. And General Shafkat Saeed was there from Pakistan side. You can go and check from net also. Then what happened? That Ahmad Musti Khan said that we are Baluch, we are not Pakistani, because all these, so many countries in these regions are having one cultural and social identity. Like he said, Afghan is from Afghanistan is for Afghans, Kazakhstan is for Kazakhs, Uzbekistan is for Uzbeks, Baluchistan is for Baluch. And if there is any fake country which is having no socio-cultural entity, that is Pakistan. So what happened? That Pakistani counterpart has lost the cool. He said, what you are saying? So you are not Pakistani? He said, no, I am Baluch, I am not Pakistani. Then he said, if you are not Pakistani, are you a Hindustani? You know what was the response of Ahmad Musti Khan? Yes, I say that I am not a Pakistani, I am a Baluch, और हम हिंगलाज माता की संतान है. We are the son of Hinglaj Mata. Then he lost his cool totally. Then he said, मतलब he came in Hindi and अबे तबे में आ गया और उसने कहा अबे हिंगलाज माता क्यों कहता, फिर भारत माता ही क्यों नहीं कह देता. You know what was the response of that Baluch leader? He said, yes, I say that we are Baluch and we are Hinglaj Mata Santan and are having no hesitation in saying Bharat Mata ki jai. So you know how the country gets connected. So finally, I would like to say it is a certain set of values which decide that how the country progresses, how we fought the war. One sentence, again I would like to re-emphasize, which I have spoken earlier. There is a very famous proverb, everything is fair in love and war. It is in English. I do not want to disrespect anybody. If you want a translation, jang aur ishq mein sab kuch jaiz hai. Neither jang is an Indian word, nor ishq is an Indian word, not a jaiz is the Indian words, all are Persian words. Because in Indian culture, in Indian language, in any Indian language, you cannot have any type of proverb कि युद्ध और प्रेम में सब कुछ जायज ना जायज. Because in our concept, war is having a duty, war युद्ध का धर्म है और प्रेम का त्याग है. This I will conclude by a quote. Padmanabhan Menon, who is a very famous writer who has written about history of Kerala, he has mentioned that the Jamarin kings of Kerala finally decide that the peace talks of Portuguese have failed. We are going for war. Then they give them the certain set of rules that the war will be fought somewhere outside. Then we will come together. Then we will blow the trumpet. Unless until you respond, we will not attack. Then they said there will be no disrespect of women, no atrocities of the common people. Then the Portuguese said they are talking about war or they are talking about a sports tournament. And the same thing has been written by Colonel James Todd, who has written the Annals and Antiquities of Rajasthan. He said that the Hindu kings of India were not fighting war for do or die. They were fighting as if it is a tournament to prove their supremacy, because they do not behead the other king, or they do not destroy the subject of the others. So combatant and non-combatant concept came in Vienna just in 1903 or 5, but in our concept it was very much there. So lastly, one more thing I would like to add, in the present context how the things are playing. I am quoting the Pakistan's Senate's Committee of Whole report of October 2016. You go and check on point number 8. It is mentioned that if we want to fight with India, then the fault lines, we have to alienate the fault lines like Muslims, Sikhs, Dalits, create a fault line in this, Naxals. And somebody may think it is right or wrong, but it is written there, then only the India which is emerging with a Hindutva ideology can be tackled with. So I have given a clear-cut reference that how the things are played and how this social cohesion, there is not time to go in the detail, just 4 things. First stage is called the stage of demoralization. Create a concept that everything is wrong in your society. Then comes, when you are succeed, then there's come the next stage, that is stage of destabilization. Then create movement. Then third stage, convert the movement into violent reactions. They call the stage of revolution. Then the capture power, that is stage of normalization. So if we understood that, then definitely we can say that Indian society, which has always guided the world, is all set to rise, not to dominate the world, but to motivate the world with a positive, social, cohesive, cultural principle.
Thank you very much, Dr. Trivedi. Perhaps you underlined that as much as economics, a set of values, a sense of shared national identity, binds and provides social cohesion. And that at the end of, I think if it is agreeable to all of us, at the end of all the panelists have spoken, we could open the house for discussion and questions. Now, may I request Srimati Meenakshi Lekhi to give her talk on law enforcement and justice, ensuring fairness and equality as cornerstones of internal security. Madam.
Thank you very much, Mr. Swain. But I was told to bring the presentation, so I brought a presentation. You prefer this format or that format?
You can
No,
do
whatever you people suggest. I go by the house. Presentation? Okay. Thank you very much. We have General Trivedi with us, General Dushant Singh ji, my co-panelists, Mr. Swain, Sudhanshu ji, General V.K. Singh, officers of our security forces, ladies and gentlemen. Pleasure and honor being here. And today's presentation is all about the rule of law. And I will begin where my friend Mr. Trivedi left, that how social cohesion impacts national security and how nature of warfare has been changed by the powers be, and objective remains dominating the other countries, the nation states. And for dominating the nation states, all kinds of strategies and weaponization of everything is what is being done. While I discussed this with our friends and officers from the military and army, now, these are the people who protect our borders, but does it mean the war is only happening at the borders? The war is happening within the social system, and ultimate control of the society is the objective. And for that, the law enforcement agencies are virtually doing or are supposed to do the same job as is being done by our security forces at the border, and similar handing over with each other, cooperating with each other is what is required to be seen and what needs to be done. And then we go to what is a law enforcement system lacking in fairness, jeopardizes the integrity of the justice it aims to protect. So what is the aim of a nation? The nation state's aim is social cohesion. Nation state's aim is to bring peace and prosperity to its citizens. Nation state's aim is to believe in identity, and Indian identity, for example. While we may be Marathas, we may be Gurkhas, we may be whatever, but the identity of nationhood is what makes us Indians, and that is what we are trying to protect. Now, internal security challenges. The internal security challenges will have all the vivisection as mentioned by Mr. Trivedi, caste, religion, color, gender. Anything you can think of can be weaponized, and that's what law enforcement agencies are battling and fighting with, because the ultimate objective being subverting the human nature. If we go by the evolution of, without naming the countries, but we all are aware of the history, that ultimate aim of other people is controlling the resources. And those resources could be human resources, those resources could be the thought resources, those resources could be the material resources. And this exploitative mechanism which has been created by certain powers to retain that power, they will continue to do that and weaponize every aspect of social cohesion, social existence, and material resources. Now there comes that, can justice or can the law enforcers amplify that, and how justice can be enforced? Now, obviously, Mr. Swain coming from that background of enforcing justice, and I coming from the Justice Department, and then finally the practitioners, we all are stakeholders in that enforcement business, and then the quality of law enforcement becomes a challenge. And that is what contributes to the internal security of the nation. Now, pillars of national security or internal security, I would restrict myself to internal security today. National security will have many different kinds of things, but let's focus on internal security as that is the subject being given to me. There will be law enforcement agencies, which will be meaning citizens. Citizens are stakeholders themselves, and they become both eyes, ears, and also the subject matter of law enforcement. Justice, ensuring accountability, transparency, and fairness. And that accountability, transparency, and fairness applies to all of us. That we all need to be transparent in our conduct, we all need to be fair in our conduct, and there has to be an element of accountability, fairness and quality. Now, fairness and quality becomes important because there are definitions which are non-negotiable. A terrorist is a terrorist. There's nothing called good terrorist, bad terrorist. Your terrorist is bad, my terrorist is good. Now, if a terrorist is operating to destabilize India in some other land which is far away from us, the person continues to be a terrorist. And that terrorism, on one side we talk of international peace agencies, on the other side we protect those terrorists, means this duplicity cannot be tolerated. And for that reason, many a definition in our Bharat Nyaya Sanhita have been amended to meet these challenges today. Now, what are the challenges? The challenges in law enforcement would be political interference. We are all aware that there are political interferences which have happened over a period of time, which lead to destabilizing a nation, which are impeding the concept of justice. And I can even say that there is a raging controversy on the Lady of Justice, the statue which has been changed in the Supreme Court, and somebody is saying this is unilateral decision, but I would say this all is interpretation. And in interpretation, I would say there was a concept in earlier times, because this is again not a concept of Nyaya Devi or Nyaya from our Indian context, but from the Western perspective. The lady enforcing law had to be blindfolded and holding a tula, which we call balance, and holding a sword in the hand. And the concept was that law enforcers are going to be blind to who is before you, and is going to hold the balance so that the balance in the society is kept with the power of the sword. Now, in good thinking manner, as democracy impedes and many kind of influences overtake, the blindfold has been removed. We can go into the debate whether blindfold removal is a good thing. That means you're watching, and you're watching in a right way, that whatever wrong is happening in the society, because justice itself is a dynamic concept. It's not a status quo concept. You can't be blind to whatever is happening around you. And justice is not being implemented like an AI methodology. I'll go into that detail a little later. But justice needs to be dispensed with, knowing the circumstances and things. And instead of sword, a book of constitution has been handed over. Recently, I wrote a piece in which we said, out the there, out, puniter is used to be the word, but now it's been changed to judicare, which means either you extradite or you punish, but it's been changed to either you extradite or you take the person to justice, judicare, which is justice. That means the justice system will decide whether a punishment is needed or not. And the justice system has to have quality, has to be fair. Now, my concept is that there cannot be any enforcement without the power of dand. Punishment is as much power, as important a part of enforcement agency as the book of constitution. So how you exercise the dand will come from the constitutional principles, but constitution by itself is, I would say lame. It has to have both elements, and within constitution one can further debate that within constitution lies the dand prakriya, the method in which the punishment needs to be given. So one can debate that the latest development is positive, and I will go to the extent of saying that instead of changing it, we could have maybe blindfolded one eye, kept the other eye open, that while you are blindfolded halfway, you don't distinguish and discriminate between the people, but on the other side, you also see what is right, what is wrong. With one hand, you've given the constitution book, but we are used to having devis with multiple arms. We should have also retained talwar, and we should have still retained the sword, and we may have given her a mobile phone or internet as well to handle that. So we can give multiple arms and weaponize her further to deal with all the weaponization that is happening in the society. The training and capacity building of the law enforcers becomes as important, because sometimes we feel, and we know we are dealing with the army officers and military, and Indian military is very well trained, and we know that how training helps. So training is as important impact, will have as much important impact as technology. So technology, capacity building, training are all part of the same aspect. Resource limitations, 1.4 billion people. We are an economy of the north because we are the 5th largest GDP, but we are 1.4 billion people, so we are as much a country of the south, and that much resource allocation becomes a challenge. Technological gaps. Now, in technological gaps, I really want to emphasize that are we only buying technology? And does that help? Does that make us more secure, or that makes us more vulnerable? Now, all of you are well trained at it, but just to bring the focus at it, because many a people, many a time we need to indigenize, and I'm a firm believer, firm believer. You keep saying that we have put so many cameras. And so many cameras, where are they sending the message? They're all operating on a system or a platform which is not controlled by you. Can that not be manipulated? We're all talking about software. You can be managed by software, but you can also be managed by interceding and interdeletion, which is happening in the hardware part of it. Now, I think that's where, when we talk about technological gaps, we need to employ indigenous technologies, because technology itself is ending up manipulating our system and is also being weaponized, as we have seen many a times. I don't wish to go into detail, but that's a subject of another day. No law enforcement, I'm quoting myself. So no law enforcement agency can function effectively without the trust of its people. Accountability and fairness are the key, as they are the only there to improve the internal security, but also align with the values of democracy. Now, we've all chosen to be democratic, and India chose to be democratic even from earlier times. We talked about Ganatantra, we talked about republics in the north, which means present-day Pakistan. Obviously, that was not Pakistan at that time, that was India at that time, Bharat at that time. Now, in this enforcement of fairness and accountability, the value of democracy lies, but we have also seen how so many agencies across the globe do instability act or act of treason or act of terrorism in the name of democracy. If you ask them what are they doing, they're establishing democracy across the globe. Now that is, as Mr. Trivedi also tried to touch the subject, I'm touching it a little more and taking it one step more, that democracy itself can be weaponized. And democracy itself can be used for causing the instability and destability processes. And then maybe the rule of law will have to deal with those circumstances also, and those elements as well. Equal treatment under the law, obviously, no discrimination is what the Constitution says, what Indian kings believed. What Mr. Trivedi's story did not speak about, and I'm adding it, that on the Portuguese ship was a dog, and there was a Brahmin who went with the message. The ear of the dog was surgically removed, and ear of the Brahmin was removed, and the dog's ear was fixed on the Brahmin's ear and told that you take it further. That was our message. Now tell me, if that is the kind of war and that is the kind of people you're battling with, will you still stick to your Vienna Convention? Vienna Convention came much later. Our kings followed the rule that after sunset you will not attack. You will not kill the women. You will not kill the children. You will not burn the granaries. You will not harm the farmers. Those were the rules which were exercised within your country, so-called civilizational entity of Bharat. Now, civilizational entity of Bharat gave ample freedom to people to practice what they believe in, and yet few lines will not be crossed. Is the world following that today? And if the world is not following that, the kind of people you're dealing with, I guess the Kali, the Chandi will have to come back to their form and deal with those conditions. Accountability mechanism. The accountability mechanism lie both within and outside. But making others accountable is as much part of the justice dispensation process. Because you can say, my terrorist is a good terrorist and is a Khalistani. Come on, there is no Khalistan happening in India, okay? Now, if Khalistan is happening elsewhere, that needs to be dealt with because your soil is being used for causing terrorism in another state, and which in the modern day terminology is called state-sponsored terrorism, because you are using it as a tool of your administration, as a tool of your own policy. And that is a policy which obviously no decent country, no democratically elected people appreciate. And that's where I think instead of confronting, we need to put this point across and tell that while we continue to engage, the method and message has to be absolutely clear, that there are no good terrorists, bad terrorists. And if snakes come to feed in your backyard and you feed them, they are going to bite you as well. And when they bite you, please don't blame us for that. Community engagement. Community engagement always remains a very important aspect of any policing job, any military job, any security job, because it is the stake of the community and the rights which we are protecting. Until unless we make them as part of our stakeholding capacity, we will not be able to enforce what we wish. Quality in law enforcement. Obviously, I'm taking it further. We've gone over it. Integration, technology integration. But technology integration, I still want to add. In US, there has been a law. We all understand artificial intelligence. We all understand mapping processes, big data collection, facial recognition tools. And sometimes those tools are no longer tools. Those tools end up controlling us. And that's where all of us have to be accountable, and all of us need to understand that aspect, that while we use it as a tool, we do not become subservient to the tool. And I'm purposely citing one latest judgment, and some development happened. So there is a black person who sees a cop and runs away in a particular area. Now, whatever has been fed to the machine responds. And the judgment comes that this guy needs to be punished for 6 years. His offense, he ran away looking at a cop. And this particular area is probably crime-infested, dominated by people of colored skin. And then the person ends up getting 6 years imprisonment. Now tell me, is this a fair judgment? Anybody who thinks it's a fair judgment? Looking at a cop and running away. Should a person get 6 years imprisonment? No, obviously not. I mean, I may be scared. Being scared is not a crime. But that's what the machine has been fed. And ultimately, our biases creep into the machine. If we leave the thinking and if we leave the decision making to the machine, these are the results you're likely to get. I often quote another example that is gender related, though I hate to be perceived only as a woman, because I feel I work with men all my life and I'm as good as bad as other people are, and I should be treated as an individual, and battle has been around this. In gender, I feel, if you ask the machine the description of a woman, blonde, fair, beautiful. Like, and you ask a man, hard-working, good, decent. I'm like, come on, give me a break. And brave. I'm like, women are as brave. I have seen very timid men in my life, and I've seen very brave women in my life. I have seen absolutely corrupt women, and I've seen damn honest men. So qualities of a person are qualities of a person. Let machine not control us. But those biases creep into the machine and they control us, and obviously justice system will get equally impeded if we allow machine to do the decision making. Justice system's role, speedy trials, judicial independence, and special courts which have been established. These are the changes. I'm purposely not going into it because I think I'm running out of time. But there are timelines, digital evidence, rehabilitation, modernization, age of criminal responsibility, and a timeline set, 30 to 45 days. A verdict has to be announced. We all know how delay in justice is causing difficulties. Forensic evidence, using technology and tools. And there is a spelling mistake here. Anyway, dharm ev hato, dharm, this is wrong. I'm not going into it. Dharma rakshati dharma is where I'm ending. That it is the dharma which protects the dharma, and if we do not protect the dharma, then I have no business to seek nyaya. Nyaya has to have element of dharma, which means dharma is rightful conduct. Rightful conduct which is perceived by a particular society. And that conduct needs to be enforced through law, and that law enforcement will lead to justice. If people do not have a sense of justice in their mind, the cohesive society that we all dream of and we wish will not occur. And in that sense, I just want to cite a small example, and that's a very relevant example, that how justice can have different parameters. A child makes a flute because it was born with life. After the flute is made, another girl says, oh, this flute should come to me because I'm the only one who knows how to use it. I'm the only one who can play the flute. The second one comes and says, no, this flute should come to me because I have no choice. And my need to play is more. Now tell me, who should the flute go to? The one who made it, the one who can play it, or the one who needs it? And all these, from utilitarian to libertism to the sense-based, these are the concepts of justice. And the justice will be determined by the person dispensing it or the society seeking it, and that's where the context comes in, that what does the collective good demand? Collective good will decide what the law of the land is, and that's how the law enforcers will enforce, and that's where the justice will be dispensed. So let's keep our eyes and ears open and pray that this cohesive society, which has been created by our ancestors over a period of time, we are able to enforce justice, bring in social, political, and economic policies together, so that the justice happens in the form of social justice, political justice, and economic justice. Injustices are removed because these very injustices are perpetrated by others to subvert us. And that subversion, I want to give one small data, which all of you need to study. Within a span of 10 years, 1 decade, between 1891 to 1899 or beginning of 1900. In that 10 decade, India lost 17 to 18 million people. The entire Europe lost in 100 years not even 500,000 people. That is the kind of subversion we have seen. So let's battle it together, not allow forces to subvert us, because ultimate aim is to control human and material resource. And for that, challenges exist both externally and internally. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Madam Lekhi, for an extremely illuminating and connecting so many diverse concepts and weaving it around the idea of justice at the center of, and also talking about micro details of the efficiency of the law enforcement agencies and connecting it with also being guarding against differential treatment in terms of interpreting the law, your terrorists and my terrorists being different. I have no intention of summarizing something as profound and as detailed as yours talk was. Can I now go forward and request the last panelist, General V.K. Singh, to speak on his topic, internal security challenges in synergizing counter-insurgency and counter-terrorist efforts. Sir.
Thank you, Chair. The Chief, the DG, Clause, all the members of the uniformed fraternity, whether in uniform or outside, all the members of the or participants who have come from friendly countries who are sitting here, ladies and gentlemen, and of course the members of the press fraternity and the media which is present here. Let me start by saying that I would like to compliment DG Clause for the simple reason that in this particular session, we have touched the society, we have touched the legal aspects and the law, and we have come now to the boots on ground. After all, when you operate within the society, with the society. You also operate within the rules of law that have been laid down, within the constitutional powers that are given to you or to others, and it is various people who get involved in counterinsurgency and counter-terrorism effort that we find our own issues which either make us successful or bogged down. We have been in counterinsurgency and terrorism effort for a very long time. We have learnt our lessons as a military. We have learnt what to do, and nation has also stood by us to provide us means so that we can fight properly. However, and I say however, problems persist on ground. Anybody who has operated, how many of you have operated? Just raise your hands. Who have been RR, AR, LC, somewhere in the northeast, plenty, almost everybody. And I won't be wrong in saying that problems come up with every operation or everything that you do. Why is that so? And that is what we are looking at. How do we synergize this effort amongst our own people? Problem is not only with other people, problem is within our own establishment too. How do we synergize this effort? How do we synergize with other agencies? How do we synergize with other law enforcing agencies? How do we work out our own protocols so that the operations become successful? It is an issue which I think has been debated for a very long time, and yet we still find problems. And the reason is very simple. I personally believe that everybody believes in his own jhanda and danda. Every agency, every establishment, that is where the ego comes in and the ego clashes come in, which lead to problems in synergizing the effort. If efforts are synergized, the results are excellent. And again, I would like to thank DG Clause because he has put Rashmi Ranjan Swain as the chair. Rashmi in late 90s was SP in Kathua, and I was commanding a brigade in Samba, and I used to have a very good interaction with him, which led to success both for him and for me. Now, that was a personal effort. And that is where the crux of problem lies. We do things on personal level, which has to be done, but it has to be institutionalized. And when it is institutionalized, it is not that that institutionalized affair is only official. And when you have official, most of you have attended various official interactions, what happens out there? There's the agenda, everybody is holding on, everybody is defensive. You don't want to actually come out of that cocoon that you have created. Things don't move at all. There has to be a mechanism to synergize by a frequent interaction at all the levels. More the interaction, more the convergence of ideas, more sharing of information is what is going to make a difference. The first problem that comes up in any operation or any action, whether it is in Northeast, whether it is in Jammu and Kashmir, whether it is in left-wing extremism areas, is intelligence. How do we synergize the intelligence effort? You've got a number of agencies. Everybody has got sources, everybody is gathering intelligence. Of course, you have created an apex organization in the center too. What is the importance of intelligence? The importance is when it is timely. If I don't get intelligence immediately, it is of no use to me. It can come after 5 days, so-and-so thing is going to happen. It doesn't make sense. Now, this is one area which requires much more thought in terms of how it is being done. You can't be waiting for intelligence. Is it then that at each of our organization levels, at each unit level, you have something which is able to contribute towards this, where it is pushed at that level as well as it is pushed up, rather than intelligence being used only for information? I think intelligence should be used as a means of combat. It's a different issue altogether. We can discuss it sometime. Time has come when it must be embedded within the teams, within the organizations that are operating. And it has to be shared laterally as well as upwardly. Similarly, a similar interaction must take place, or sharing must take place from both the ends. Then it will be synergized. Same is true for resources. Resources, if information is available, if intelligence is available, they must flow. Whether these resources are in terms of additionalities that have to come in there to deal with that situation, whether it is in terms of technological equipment that is needed, if it doesn't flow, then the success is limited. Then you waste time, and things go wrong. You do need to synergize what is going on within the society, how society is working. If we don't have information on that, things will go wrong. And I don't know how many of you have heard G.K. Pillai, who was our former Home Secretary. He said that most of the time, the political elite views the internal security in the light of their own political gains. Now that whole concept is wrong. And he put in some scathing remarks on this. To a certain extent it is true. Because the local political system, if we don't understand, it will not be possible for us to combat things that are happening in that area. And if it is impinging on somebody's political interest, then answers have to be found for it. Otherwise, things will go wrong. So, where society is concerned, I think there is a need at all levels to ensure that they work on the same ethos as the armed forces do. And what are those ethos? Those ethos are very simple. Country comes first, always and every time. And second thing, there is no difference of caste, creed, religion where armed forces are concerned. If this can trickle down at various levels, I think to a great extent the effort will get synergized where you have to combat whatever is coming at you. Today we talk of grey zone warfare, we talk of hybrid warfare, we talk of various things by which things will happen. Victory or debilitating an opponent implies that you will use all resources. And all these resources are used even today. Today, I don't know how many of you have read a book called Wiki at War. Anybody? It's an old book, Wiki at War. If you haven't read it, please do read it. What you are seeing today, where the social media is concerned, this book talked about it quite some time back. It's a weapon. Social media is a weapon which can be used effectively, and it is being used. And therefore, who is coordinating this effort to ensure that this doesn't affect people? It doesn't affect the forces, it doesn't affect the society. Nobody seems to be there. How do you synergize that? I think creation of new organization is not required. What is required is honing the capability of the existing organizations so that we can counter it. Otherwise, it's very simple. Today, the belief is that if it is on WhatsApp, it's true. Sorry, but that's the general impression. And it is not only within this hall, outside. Good old days in a village, if people would say it's come in the newspaper, so it is true. Today, the norm is it's come in WhatsApp, so it is true. And that is where things start going wrong. You can be manipulated. And that is what that book talks about. How to manipulate things, how to gather data, how to ensure that you can do what you want to by that manipulation to achieve the aim that you want to achieve. So, we all are in a situation where everything will be thrown at us, and we need to find out what is it that we should synergize so that we can attain success. We talked of intelligence, we talked of resources. The next is capability building. And the capability building is in terms of what we are doing, what others are doing, how do we ensure that everybody has similar type of capability. Otherwise, when you deal with each other, there is a problem. I think the armed forces made a great amount of effort in trying to build capability with the other forces. We had people from CRPF who trained with us at a particular period of time. We had people from the police forces who trained for left-wing extremism down in the middle of the country. Now, that is where things went wrong. Why they went wrong? Police selected people from various areas. Let's say 20 people were selected. They came, got trained. When they went back, they went to those 20 different thanas. The effect was lost. What you trained them for was to act as a team. But what the organization did was to distribute them to various places. And there, the concept was, oh, he's a trained person, he should go to the most difficult area. That person became non-effective. Same happened with the CRPF. They were very good when they trained with us. The moment they went back, they got distributed again. Now, somewhere this capability building needs to be synergized so that the operational ability matches what we want. Otherwise, things go wrong. The next aspect that we need to look at is who is looking after internal security? Well, we have many people looking after internal security. Ultimately, the Ministry of Home is responsible, and they have responsibilities delegated to various levels. My personal opinion is internal security, every one of us is a stakeholder. Common citizen to people in places of importance, places in security forces. Everybody is responsible. Take the example of 2611 in Mumbai. People land, they walk through a fisherman colony, they walk past Budhwar Park. Thank God they didn't attack Budhwar Park. A lot of railway officers would have been no more, and it would have been a bigger disaster. They take a taxi, nobody reports. It didn't make a difference. The eyes and ears of the entire country have to be tuned so that you are able to see and report to somebody. And who's that somebody? That has to be ascertained. And that has to be synergized. Otherwise, we will still carry on having the same issues. This non-challenge, I'll say, of any event that is happening and people walking away needs to be taken out. And it is not the task of the armed forces. It is the task of somebody else to ensure that the civil society is kept as aware as the forces and the law enforcement forces who are doing it. The working within the various forces that will come up, that also needs to be worked out differently. Again, major issue that comes up always is the ego. Oh, if I do it, I'll be acclaimed. I should be the first one. And that is what leads to most of the problems. 2611 is a classic example. I'm not going to discuss that, but look over it, you will find the flaws where things went wrong and things went right. And mind you, I may sound as pessimist, things haven't changed much. Lot of things are still the same. Lot of problems are still the same. And that is why we need to look at it more critically at our level and ensure that what we want can be done by ensuring that these things are told to others so that they can do those things. Resource allocation is another area which needs to be synergized for internal security. Again, resources are different. What starts happening is that suddenly one force says that this is what is required for me. I am the sole person in charge of this internal security. It is not so. Like I said, internal security is everybody's problem. There are people for law enforcing, there are people for other things, but ultimately, if it is not a synergized effort, we will have a problem. Synergy is needed to overcome the challenges of internal security, because this is one field which can make or break a nation. given the type of societal pressures that we have, given the type of societal diversity that we have, given the type of fissures that come up for various things, and given the political notion that works within this to exploit these fissures for political gains, which ultimately can be used by others for separatism or for a particular cause or for ensuring that the tribalism and the Jativad comes to the fore. Now, all these are issues which require a greater and a greater thought. No nation which remains divided can reach the level where it wants to reach, and that is what Sudhanshu said. That's the first thing that he said. And for our purposes, the synergy with the law enforcement and people who are going to judge us in law is also equally important. Without their support, you will get into trouble. Without their support, and let me assure you, there are ways and means available with the law enforcers and the people who are with the Justice Department who can save a situation for you. And that's why I told you that I learned it when I was operating with Swain as the SP in a neighboring district. It makes a difference. And maybe that is why they put up a picture in which I think our tweets are the same, maybe sourced from the same place in the pic that they have put up. Ladies and gentlemen, internal security is each one's affair, each one of us. It is our duty to share it with all others whom we come in contact with. It is our duty to ensure that if we get in a situation of anything to do with internal security, we should not stand on our ego, but should have the flexibility to work out solutions which assist the nation as such. There is a army transformation study. We had suggested a particular system in it because I think overall there is a need for a greater coordination. And in this transformation study we had put down that all our areas and sub-areas which at a particular time were meant to coordinate the internal security effort, any disaster effort, they are well placed and well suited in terms of communication and the command and control that they have. Can they be linked into an entire country grid where they become the coordinators to coordinate the effort? In many cases, still they do it. When it is internal security or it is disaster, they still do it. Now, can it become institutionalized without stepping on somebody's toes? Half the time people think that somebody is stepping on their toes. But I think without stepping on their toes, if this gets institutionalized, it will be a great gain for the country. And maybe we have to put it across in a manner so that the barriers can be broken and things can be synergized. Then only we'll all attain success. What we are fighting in terms of various insurgencies and divisive things that are going on, they have a habit of going up and down. They have a habit of getting support. They have a habit of being used by inimical powers or people who want to create problems in the country. And that is why this issue must remain foremost in our mind, that we all need to find solutions to problems that will come on ground. Till the time we don't do it, we will keep having problems which ultimately cost in blood where the armed forces are concerned. With these words, thank you. I suddenly find everybody has gone so quiet. It's become scary. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. I think without wasting time, we can re-energize ourselves and create synergy between ourselves by entering into the question-answer session. So I would now open it for the House. How do we begin? In the center. Okay.
Hi there, my name is Surendra Singh, and Jai Hind sir, the question is to General Singh. Now you've been on both the sides, the civilian as well, the military as well, and you shared your positive experiences with Mr. Swan as well. My question is, tomorrow if you are given the free hand, you've seen both the sides of the picture now, what would be the first 3 immediate measures that you will take to ensure that this Jugalbandi happens again and we'll have far better outcomes? Thank you.
You want me to answer that?
Yes, sir. The question was to you.
Okay. There's no free hand to anybody. Everybody has responsibility. Everybody plugs into that responsibility, and it is always an effort which is a combination of everybody. So, in a democracy, there is no free hand. You are bound by rules, you are bound by the societal pressure, you are bound by the various directives that are given to you. And therefore, whatever you do has to be within this great confine. And that is why I said that you have to keep the law on your side. You can't go against the law. And you should not go against the law. That's what democracy is all about. Similarly, you have to take care of the society. That's what we are living in. So I would say that if you are looking at free hand, then probably you will veer off from what the democracy is all about. I don't know if Meenakshi ji would like to contribute.
Well, yes, the gentleman in the center.
Namaste. It's always a great honor for me to interact with eminent panelists. My name is Danish Said, still preparing for civil service examination. My question to Honorable Lieutenant General Sir, how far are India's internal security challenges linked with, I'm repeating once again, how far are India's international security challenges linked with border management, particularly in view of the long porous border with most countries of Southeast Asia? Thank you.
So we can combine 2-3 questions, otherwise I think it will be better.
Yeah. Right. So we go for the second question. There, yes, with the gentleman in the...
Jai Hind, sir.
Yes. Okay.
I have a question each for Dr. Sudhanshu and Ms. Meenakshi, ma'am. Dr. Sudhanshu, the question for you is, how can government policies, educational institutions, community organizations and media, along with technology, including social media, effectively promote social cohesion while protecting individual freedoms, measuring progress and addressing potential consequences of failing to address social cohesion in terms of national security? That was a question for you, sir. And ma'am, while addressing you have coined one term, Khalistan. As such, there is nothing called as Khalistan. So as long as my view is that as long as we use this term as a Khalistan, it is indirectly we are acknowledging that as a Khalistan which exists. Why don't we call using these particular persons with their national identity. Like if they are a Canadian, we should call them as Canadian terrorists, or if they are US citizens, we should call them as US citizens. So the more we stop using Khalistan movement, Khalistan as a word, I think over a period of time, this itself will fade away. So what are your views on that? Thank you.
It's addressed to you, madam.
Should I start?
It is addressed both. You could start and then Dr. Sudhanshu can join in.
The first question was for Dr. Sudhanshu and later was for...
I see.
On the issue of social media and others, what happens, anything comes with a virtue, but also sometimes it becomes a problem. Because right now the openness in the society and openness of expressing thoughts, which at the initial stages was very good in spreading the information, but now it is being weaponized, as Meenakshi ji has said, and it is being used to create a mistrust in the society. But on the part of government, as you asked, if government starts taking control, then it will become an issue. Even if in electronic media and in films, there is a censor board. In print and electronic, there is a liability in what you are publishing. But in social media, up till now, there is no such rule. So government has asked the organization to make an organization of themselves, like Press Council and others, equivalent of that, to impose self-restrictions. If it doesn't suffice, then we will see what happens. But one thing I would like to quote, Mahatma Gandhi, in his book Hind Swaraj, which he wrote in 1909, you know, in that book, he has even opposed trains. So you will say, how come, on what pretext he has opposed trains? But the pretext is very relevant today. He said by using those things, the various people will come in contact with each other very quickly. And if it happens so fast, there is a more a possibility of spreading the bad things than the good things. So the social media is now being used, and I would not like to mention, but if you go and see which things are searched more on internet, they are the constructive things are searched more, or the destructive things are searched more, or the obscene things are searched more, then you can better analyze.
Yeah, madam.
Thank you very much. I'm very grateful to the gentleman asking this question. I have written a piece on this. In the first post it got published, and there I have taken this stand only, as the first one to take that stand, that the word Khalistan does not exist in Indian context. It may exist in certain minds which are outside this country, and they are Canadian terrorists. And Canadian soil is being used for causing terrorism in other states, and that's where state-sponsored terrorism is the term we all need to use. And that's where the change in our perception and building narrative needs to stand and needs to start, because somewhere we go wrong, and we have been wrong till 2 days back in addressing this particular subject. And coming to social media, I have a different take from what Mr. Trivedi has said. As long as trains are Indians, as long as people traveling and spreading the thought is an Indian thought, government has every stake to promote it. But if train is going to be from another country, people handling that train and driving that train is going to be somebody else, I think Government of India need to intervene. And that's where social media comes in, because if I give a call to someone and say there's a bomb in the plane, I can be picked up by the police and security agencies and taken to task. But if social media platforms are being used for those terrorist activities, you do not know the identity of the person, and government raises its hand, the police says we wrote to the platform, we haven't got the response, 2 months have gone and 5 months have gone, and you have virtually no control. So people driving the train and people running the rails are different, and that's where Government of India needs to intervene. And that's where I said indigenous technologies is what we need to work on, and AI and several other things we need to have. Either we ask for responsibility in terms of if publishing house is responsible for what they prescribe and write. Similarly, if this social media is falling within the realm of media, and that media needs to have some answerability quotient under the existing laws. Social setup, social cohesion will disappear as long as your social ideologies are not getting implemented. If a 10-year-old and 12-year-old is going to be exposed to porn, and I talk about POSCO and so on and so forth, and change the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, and then these are the very children who are being forced, and we've changed it. That earlier the law used to be only women could be sent for trafficking, human trafficking. Today we have changed the law that boys under 18 are equally vulnerable to those kinds of things. I think with changing times, the thinking needs to change, control needs to change, and people running the rail and managing the train have to be Indians.
One sentence I would like to add, food for thought. This bottle costs maybe 20-25 rupees. But Facebook is free, YouTube is free, Twitter is free, Instagram is free. You have to just pay the fee for internet. And all these companies are coming from that thought process which says that there can never be a free lunch. If there is a free lunch, there has to be poison in it. So think over it. If something is getting free, we have to be very cautious about it.
So, well, you have raised the one who has raised his hand since last about 5 minutes. At the end.
My question is directed to Dr. Trivedi. So what I want to ask you is that there are a lot of people in this country, specifically Rohingyas and illegal Bangladeshis, who don't really wish to integrate. Right? So what are your views on that?
Actually, if you look at the Indian thought process, I will like to first say one thing. If I ask you name a single country in the world on which all the religions of earth are there, it is only India. Because the Zoroastrians, which have vanished from their homeland, they are thriving in this country. The only country in which there was, after the formation of Israel, they documented the history about the persecution of Jews. The only country was India, whose Jews have written, forget about the persecution, we never faced any discrimination. And you know, if you ask you, which country in the world has all the sects of Islam? There are 72 sects believed. It is only India, not the 57 Muslim countries. So that shows the capability, because we believe in the concept of Sarva Pantha Sambhav. That is mutual respect. They believe in tolerance. You have to be very clear about it. What is the difference between tolerance and respect? Tolerance means I do not like it, I can tolerate you. I am hating you, but still I can tolerate you. So there the concept is tolerance, and our is Sarva Dharma Sambhav. So if they understand this, the concept, then there will be no problem. But till they remain in that tolerance mindset, then tolerance limit can fall anytime. So in my opinion, I would just like to quote one more thing. Mark Twain was a very famous BBC journalist who remained in India for 3 decades. He has written this thing just as late as 2019 in the Equator magazine, that the Muslims in India are the luckiest. And he has explained why. He said for around 3 decades, I remained in Nizamuddin area of New Delhi, on which on one side of the road was Hazrat Nizamuddin Auliya's Dargah, and other side was Tablighi Jamaat's office. He said in any other Muslim countries, these two divergent sects could not have survived for 3 decades. So Muslims in India are luckiest because in their own religion, they are having full freedom to worship in whatever they want. So sign is there. Kashmir uses to be the center of Sufism. Now, as soon as the Indian thought process got a little bit diminished there, I asked, there are 4 sects of Sufism: Naqshbandi, Sohrawardi, Chishti and Qadri. Can you name any other center remained in Kashmir? So it is Indian thought process, it is Indian cultural process, which is sometime been demarked or demeaned as religious, means the Hindu thought process which ensures respect for everybody, sarva panth sambhav, not disrespect or you can say hate for anybody. So tolerance and mutual respect is the main reason.
You. Please,
May I please?
Okay.
Okay, you take a chance there. May I please go ahead, because yesterday I kept raising my hand, the moderator didn't seem to be, the radar wasn't scanning that side, so I'm taking the liberty today. I have no questions. At the outset, I wish to compliment Claus for having segregated the topic beautifully. I am General Sudhakar, sir. It's as if the former chief was addressing us in 15 Corps when he was the chief of staff, the Colonel GS, then General Bhatt, and I was just going into the Victor Force. Very precise ballpark points. My suggestion is that internal stability, what is happening in J&K today, is not all driven by the internal dynamics. We all know that it's a proxy war sponsored by Pakistan. I think it's about time that we acknowledge in such kind of discourses and we factor in deliberations. Because as long as we divide, I think we are losing out a very important, significant component which needs to be analyzed deeper. Same is the case with a month and a half back, a Pakistani hacker who's perhaps residing in Lahore. He was pinpointed and it was fully established, sitting thousands of miles away, he could trigger a series of unrest in UK. That is the power of social media today. If that be the power of social media, I personally feel the external threat and the internal challenges, the boundaries have blurred. Today, there is a bigger war going inside the country. About 15-20 days back, I was imposed with a topic to deliver. Is India passing through 6G warfare? Without understanding the meaning of 6G, carried out research, then came to the following findings. That there is a neuroscience which is being weaponized by the NATO forces to prepare for 2040 conflict. So again, further deeper into it, two more points, sir. There is a point related to the law.
Yeah.
There is a point related to the practice. Is there anything which is being done in India with regard to the weaponization of the neurosciences, that is to prevent hacking of mind, which has been adequately applied in a country like Bangladesh, in our neighbor? Because it's happening in India. We haven't come to realize about it. Last but not the least, to save on time, the Part 4A of Article 51 Alpha of the Constitution, it talks about the fundamental
Can you
rights. Yes.
brief, please?
It talks about the fundamental duties. Is it about time that we try to focus on and see how best can we bring it to the enforceable section? That is all I have to say.
Well, I think that was a statement of kind. And with that, I would thank all panelists for having shared their valuable thoughts. Kaibo, if you could take over.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed, sir. First up, ladies and gentlemen, we managed to gather some profound thoughts from all of our speakers. Can we have a huge round of applause to thank them as well? The kind of wisdom that we gathered from each and every speaker. On that note, if I may please invite on stage Chief of the Army Staff, General Upendra Trivedi, Param Vishesh Seva Medal, Ati Vishesh Seva Medal. So if I may please invite you on stage to please felicitate all of our speakers. Firstly, sir, I request you to felicitate our session chair and moderator, Shri R.R. Swain. And now, sir, I request you to please felicitate Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi. May I now request you, sir, to please felicitate Ms. Meenakshi Lekhi. And now, sir, I request you to please felicitate General Vijay Kumar Singh. Sir, may I please request you to join our speakers for a group photograph? Thank you very much, sir. And thank you to all of our speakers. Thank you very much for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, and on that profound note, we are now about to take a lunch break. Yes, sir. A quicker one. Absolutely, sir. So the scheduled break, ladies and gentlemen, please note it's for 45 minutes, and we're about to get started with our next session exactly at 1:45 p.m. I request all of you to please take care of your belongings. Please enjoy the lunch, but please we'll be back inside the hall exactly at 1:45 p.m. Thank you.